Well, this time in our famed interview series, it's a delight to be interviewing Steve Hollick. Steve's been part of our church. Steve and Claire have been part of our church for quite a while now. Steve serves us by being one of the governing body, helping lead the church, caring for the staff, ensuring that we're on track. And preaches for us. You will have seen Steve in so many different contexts. But Steve, kind of one of the things about Steve's life is that he has seen the inside of more churches probably than any of us. How come, Steve? Tell us about yourself.
Yeah, so as well as attending church for fun on Sunday, I spend Monday to Friday working with churches right across the UK. Myself and my brother, we have a business. We design and install sound systems, video projection systems for churches. Mainly, we do some council and government work, but 80% of what we do and our time is spent talking to churches in the process of change as to what they can have in terms of video, sound, that type of thing. So yeah, I spend most of my time in many different churches, different shapes and different sizes.
Church has kind of dominated your life, really, hasn't it? I mean, from being a young child, your dad was a pastor in Elim. You grew up in that context. What was it like growing up as the son of a Elim minister?
It's kind of hard to say. I couldn't tell you what it isn't like because my whole life, my dad was my pastor. From the early stage, we moved to lots of different churches. So we were in Scotland, in Wales, and in England. So our whole life basically was church. We were at church every day through one reason or another. It's the days when Tuesday was the Bible study and Thursday was the prayer meeting. Kids club was on Friday. Music practice was on Monday. So everything that we did, our whole social life and everything was around church. And so as I grew up and started to get a bit of independence from your parents, as you do in your early teens, it was kind of weird going to other people's houses where the whole life didn't revolve around church. They actually went and played football, or they did a whole host of other activities. And so, I mean, it was great. I had a great childhood. I'm very blessed with the childhood I had. But at the same time, in terms of life perspective, maybe an extremely sheltered childhood. So not really understanding necessarily how the world works, because all our friends were Christians. Everybody was very nice. Everyone was very caring. And so as we got older, you kind of get the idea that my world reality wasn't necessarily the way that the rest of the world functioned, really. And that was quite a harsh lesson when it came.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember my brother always tells a story that the first time when he was 16 and he was at college and went to the pub with everyone from college, he had no idea what happened in a pub or what to order. And so he went to the bar and just says, "I'll have a pint, please." "A pint of what?" "I don't know. I'll have a pint now, please." That was kind of so we were very blessed and we were very protected, but also a very sheltered childhood, probably.
It's a great story about how how those two worlds can be quite separated out, isn't it? One of the things that growing up as a pastor's kid, and it's nice really to hear you be so affectionate really about that world, you know, all your friends, your social life and all the rest of it. But one of the challenges is when you do get to 16, 17, and then you're kind of working out, well, who are you now that you're no longer just a child? So what was going on with faith for you? Where was there ever a moment where you decided, actually, I don't know if faith is for me, or did you just sort of continue seamlessly into it? What was going on?
I think one of the things is faith and being a Christian and being in that environment was just the norm for me. So as I got older, I realized there is a different world out there. There is a different environment. There was a point where you have to sort of look at it for yourself and realize, actually, do I really believe what they did? I never really did the whole rebellious thing where I went away and had nothing to do with church and wasn't prepared to do it. Well, certainly not publicly. Mm. What I certainly did for a few years was carry on doing what my parents and what my friends and family expected me to do, while inside it was just what my life was. And I suppose then there came to a point when I got started to get older, more independent, that I had to actually look at things myself and say, actually, do I really believe this? Does this really make sense? Now, what was a blessing was that my pastor set me in a place where I knew I could find the answers when I wanted to search for myself. Certainly as you get married and you live your own life, there's definitely a thing where you have to decide, actually, how am I going to live my life? How am I going to set up my house and keep my house in order in regards to Christian thinking? And that's a whole new challenge in itself, really. Working out how, when you're in your own home and you're living and you have to choose, what do you really believe? Because how do you live? How do you respond to that person? How do you act in this situation? When you then are grown up, and your faith has to be for you then. And that again is the next step when you have children.
I was going to ask you,
all of the ball game.
When did you? When do you think you became a grown up? Claire would say.
I was going to say, I'm so glad that Claire's not in this conversation, because Claire would say, I married him 21 years ago and I'm still waiting.
When do you think you became a grown up?
I think I thought I was a grown up when I got married, but I think certainly having kids gives you a whole new perspective and understanding of life. Not that you can't have that without having kids, but yeah, that was certainly where the problem with having kids is it really. Dan and Jamie aren't watching this, are they? The problem with having kids is it forces you to actually nail your colours to the mast on what you actually believe on things because of the way that you have to behave. It's easy to fudge things when it's just you bumbling through life. But when you have to have principles and morals or a belief system, because your kids see you at home 24 hours a day, there's no way of just saying, this is what I believe, but not really believing it. You have to set, actually, they know what you believe because they see it. And so it forces you to rethink what you do in any given situation.
It's true, isn't it, that the home and the relationships in the home are kind of like the crucible in which I think faith is formed. And I don't mean the children's faith, I mean the adult's faith. I think our faith is formed and shaped and tested for all those reasons that you just said really well.
Yeah, I mean, I think when I look back at growing up in a Christian home, there's things that have shaped me quite significantly for good and for bad, maybe. So, for example, when we moved to different churches, obviously going to a different church is a different environment, and Dad was very much going around trying to help churches that had issues. So we would have some quite difficult AGMs, the church meetings. Mm. And I remember a few times coming home and being devastated by what's happened at church. And Dad would be, no, we believe in prayer, we believe in faith, we believe in praise. We're going to praise and we're going to celebrate and we're going to thank God. And there was my dad's absolute faith of, regardless of what's happened, this is what we believe, and so we're going to stick to that. So that was a really good lesson that has really helped me, and I've hopefully have tried to demonstrate to my kids that actually, no, this is what we believe, and actually, even when it doesn't seem like things go right, this is what we believe, and this is what we're going to hold to. So from that really shaped me on that. Where it also shaped me, and you don't realise some of the things that you've picked up until you have kids. So we were never allowed to do anything on a Sunday but go to church. And so I remember being picked for the running team, but not being allowed to take part in it. And my mum and dad, in fairness, for the absolute, best intentions, or whatever. And so I had a real when my boys started playing football, I was coaching. So we play on a Sunday now. And at first it was like, absolutely not. But then I went totally the other way in terms of, no, I'm not going to give them that hang up that I had. And I think that's where sort of you need to sort of, again, find an understanding of what's right. And because, again, your childhood leads you to maybe one extreme or the other, but actually somewhere in the middle is the balance that you need. But all those things and hang-ups that you had, you don't necessarily realise until you're imposing those hang-ups on other people.
So, I mean, I remember when, because your lads now are teenagers and good footballers, but you told me that when they got involved, you got involved and you managed and you became, you took charge of actually quite a significant number of teams and situations, didn't you? And
Yeah.
but there was lots of times actually. I can't remember. I think it was with Dan, where you would come to church and then you'd be rushing off at 12. I mean, to be fair, you live in a different county than the rest of the church, but which probably doesn't make it easier. But that sense of, you know, ensuring that as far as you could.
Yeah, I mean, there's what. Yeah, so we wanted to let the boys be boys. I didn't want my boys to be as socially inexperienced as maybe I was because of my upbringing. But also, there's a point, I think you said it a few times, which is really good, that I would explain to the boys, in our tradition, this is what we do. So, yeah, football's great and it's important that you do that, and this is great, but also we do this as a family. And so what we made the effort to do is try and incorporate all of it. So, and it wasn't always easy and it didn't always work, and loads of times we got it wrong either one way or the other. And so now Jamie, we've got a family football team on a Saturday, which isn't as great a team, but he's still doing it. And you have to work things out, don't you? But it's trying to manage their expectations, manage what, but also instill, this is what we believe as a family, this is what we believe. And there's something really fundamental, I think. Again, my boys are teenagers, and you kind of learn as you go, don't you? So I might look back in 5 years' time and think, what were we doing? But that whole thing that was football is a great example of, yeah, you want to do this, you want to do this, but this is what we believe, and this is why we believe it. And that applies to actually even more issues as your children get older, because obviously,
to be fair, football's easy.
If the only complication we had was sorting out the boys going to football, life would be great. Do you know what I mean? It's like before when you have kids, you look back and think, we thought we were busy before we had kids. What were we doing with all that time? But yeah, but you have different issues now with as their friends are growing up and becoming teenagers. Well, a whole different realm of issues open up. But there's something saying, totally get that. This is who we are. This is what we believe, and there's all those other things. But this is the foundation that we can then go out and work from.
What do you think has happened to your own faith as a father, as a husband, at this stage of your life? What do you think is going on?
I think that being a father certainly helps you understand more God as a father. So that whole principle of God isn't just here as a father to make everything right. And it's not a magic bullet that's going to make everything better because God's my father. Because as a father, your kids are going to go off and do something daft. And sometimes you have to say, crack on, away you go. I'll help you pick up the pieces and I'll help you resolve it. And even when you're in that difficult situation, I'll stand with you and I'll support you. But if that's what you're going to do, that's what you're going to do. And these are what happens. And so I think that applies to God our Father as well. He loves us, he cares for us, but he's given us free will. And the only way that actually we understand and develop as people and character is to use that free will. What I hope, though, is that my children understand my principles and values. So I don't have to say you can't do this and you can't do that. They understand my heart, and so out of that comes their behaviour. And I think that applies to us as God's children as well. God doesn't want to give us a set of rules that says you've got to do this or do this, and it's about doing this. God says, here's my heart. I love you. I love the world around you. I've put you there to make the world a better place, to reach out to people. I've given you free will, but go and exercise your free will. Go and experience the world, but do it with my mindset and my understanding. And I think more and more, my prayer is that I understand more of God's heart for the people around me.
That's a great answer. Steve, it's been brilliant to talk to you about your own life and about being a father and father to teenagers. And the really intriguing thing is that before we began this conversation this morning, so we're doing this in August and this will be coming out in September, but because it's school holidays and college holidays, Dan said that he would be willing to be interviewed next week. So it'll be interesting to get your son's view.
Absolutely.
The authorized version.
Just undermine everything I've just said, basically.
We really appreciate the honesty and just what you give church and how committed you are to it as a family. And I want to say thank you. So thanks for your time today. It's been brilliant just to catch up and to reflect with you. Thank you.
Thanks, Neil. Take care.